click that like. If you're new here, subscribe and have the bell hit for notifications to stay up to date on all the new content. Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to another C2C. And of course, as always, we have Brad from the Awaken podcast with us as well. So, Brad, welcome back to the Codega's C2C call-in show. You kind of becoming a regular here. I don't know, we should call it Codega's call-in show or the C2C. We should call it, I don't know, the Awaken Codega call-in show. I don't know.
Either way, I'm super excited to be here again. I love interacting with everybody in the chats. Everybody is always so awesome. And I'm always happy to be here talking with you, man. So this is cool.
It is great. I know. I really enjoy it. I know. And we're off the air. We're always talking as well. So for those who think that we only talk here, there's so much more of that going on. And as usual, everyone, this is our call-in show. So, of course, we'd love to hear, anything that you want to share. I know BJ Lapierre has shared with me a bunch of stuff this past week here with all of her experiences lately and seeing some UFOs and actually having a video of one as well. Cool. So if she wants to come on, she's more than welcome to. So, yeah, we'll do that. So what's new and shaking in the land of the awakened?
Well, yeah, thank you for playing my friend's song. I know it's a little vulgar at some spots, so thank you for playing my friend's song on the intro. I got a friend named Steven. He's in a band. He's a DJ in the band of the song that we just introed to, and him and his group is called the Doughboys, and that song is called "Get Back Up." So they're actually going to be in Battle of the Bands in Denver. So if you're in the Denver area and you're listening, please go get some tickets at, let me see the exact, it's bandwagonpresents.com, and it's the Battle of the Bands for Denver. So it's 4 groups, and they were chosen out of hundreds and hundreds of groups. So
oh wow,
if
that's
you can,
awesome.
go support those guys. Yeah.
And their link is down below. I linked them their Spotify to this song in the, I said down below, but in the show notes. So that's already in there. So if you guys go into the description, you guys will find that. So it's interesting. And BJ says, Rye, this is only a very small percentage of what I have. We can talk about it all later sometime. I'm new to all this showing my stuff to important people. Oh, who's the important people?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
No, yeah. That's awesome, BJ. Yeah, definitely. I would love to have you on the show or even on my Patreon members only show. I think that would be fantastic. I think there's a great spot for that as well. Mouse as well. I know we talked about this. I would definitely like to have you on in the Patreon members only section because I am doing a members only. And I got and for those who were wondering last time, I got my YouTube back up and running. So, if you guys want to be a member, by all means, you guys can subscribe, whatever you want to do with that. So it's there. It's active again. I actually finally figured out how to take care of it, and I did. So thank you, YouTube.
BJ, you got this far. I mean, you figured out how to get into a chat on YouTube. I can't even figure some of that stuff out. I was just Rye was like, you need to stream this to your audience as well. And I was like, dude, that's gonna take a long time. I know.
I'm like, we got 10 minutes. You can do it. He's like, dude, no, we got to do it at another time. So yeah. because the show is literally becoming, the Rye Brad show kind of thing, and I think that's great. I like that. So. But yeah, BJ Lapierre, what we can do, or BJ, I'll just say BJ, what we can do is, you can send me, well, you have sent me the videos and I can always play them. So that on my end, I can take care of that. The videos that you sent me and the pictures you sent me, I can take care of that on my end because literally by you sending them on Facebook, I now have them. I have control.
For whatever reason, I can't ever join the chat. I every time I try to log in, like it takes me through the steps of joining the chat. I want to talk to you guys, but it always, for some reason, doesn't let me do it.
Is that on the StreamYard side, or is that on YouTube? So you can also jump into the YouTube itself. Like if you have YouTube running in the background, just mute it, and then you can actually engage in that end if you want.
Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm here to help. Yeah, I have YouTube running in the background on my well, I have it here and I have it on my laptop as well because I'm having issues not with my keyboard but with my mic, the cord on my mic. And so if I'm typing on my keyboard, I might bump that cord on my mic and then cause my mic to go dead, and then you're not going to hear me, and then it's going to be me trying to spend 5 minutes trying to fix that, like I did in the beginning of when we first joined together there.
I got a friend of mine named Ryan that's in the chat as well. So Ryan, say hi when you can, dude. And if you want to share some interesting stories with us, dude, let us know.
Yeah. And so as before I share that link, Brad, is there anything anything cool that you want to share about? Like, yeah, I know you talked about the band, but is there anything else? Like, I know you had Joel Thomas on. You just released that, and for those who don't know, Joel is well, I'll let you take that away.
Yeah, so Joel is one of the he does a lot of the filming, he does a lot of the producing for the confessionals, and so he and Tony they're constantly working on films in the background that you guys don't see about. You guys don't see. So he's working on a new project with like Isaac Weishaupt, some of the biggest names in Wana Yala from the One-on-One podcast. They're working on a documentary. I won't spoil it. If you want to listen to Joel talk about it, you can. But they got a lot of big films coming up. So tune into the confessionals and tune in to Free the Rabbits for more of that info. And Tony's constantly pushing out films just nonstop. I don't know how he's doing it between recording a few times a week and then going on the road.
My guess is now he's alleviated himself from doing any of the editing or any of that other stuff. He's just doing the interviews, which is
he did.
I think that's like all our dreams. My dream is just to do the interview and then be like, okay, Joe, you can edit this, please, thanks. Yeah.
He's got a production company that does everything now, so it's like he just took that. You just said, hey, just figure out just tell me where I need to be and I'll just be the talent for you. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Plan everything else out. I'll just show up.
Fantastic. Hey, so I'm for those who are I advertised my shirts at the beginning and just a little, so I have shirts if anybody is interested. There's a shameless plug right there. And the links are always in the bio. And for those who haven't gone and checked out Brad's channel, I linked his website in the show notes as well. So by all means, go check out his website. He has a smaller presence on YouTube, a little bigger on Rumble, but his main is Spotify or Spreaker or Apple, wherever you get your main audio podcasts.
It's weird. It's weird that Apple seems to be like people care about Apple more, but Spotify and YouTube podcasts are bigger than Apple. So like, and what I mean by that is like when we get reviews on Apple, it means more in the podcasting world for some reason than it does for Spotify, which doesn't make any sense to me. So we get like you can go see these things called listen notes, which gives you a ranking based on your percentage of followers and comments and reviews and stuff like that. And for some reason, Apple is heavily weighted in the conversation. So if you guys don't mind helping me out, give me a review on Apple and a review on Spotify, those things, and give Rye as well. I mean, we definitely need these because we can book bigger guests. We continue to book great guests, but a lot of times people will look at our followers and they'll look at our listen notes and they'll look at our rankings and stuff and before they even come on the show, because some of these bigger people won't go on a show with 2,500 followers or 4,000 followers. Some of them will only go on these bigger shows. So not me. I mean, I'll go on if you got one, if you're a podcaster and you got one follower, I want to go on your show because that's one more person that I can get in front of and talk to.
I agree. It's funny you say that because there was I just kind of stumbled on a guy from Instagram who literally just starting his podcast. He hasn't really even done an episode yet. And, I followed him on Instagram and he's like, oh, thanks, and I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, I think I said something. I said something like, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your material." And then he asked, could we ever work together or something like that? And I said, of course. Like that's something that I'm always game for. And so I told him, put something together and I'll throw out some dates to you. So he's kind of said, well, here's my ideas of stuff that I can talk about. And that's it. Like we're all trying to help each other out. We all have something to say.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm still super new. I mean, I'm only on like episode 35 or 36 or something like that. So I'm still learning the ropes of all this. Like I went on a show called the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show last night and talked with this lady named Victoria and her audience for a couple hours. And, she was like overly thankful for me to come. And I was like, dude, listen, I'm thankful that you even want to talk to me. Like, I don't think people understand. Like, this is, it's fun for us. This is enjoyment, and for if anybody wants to hear what I have to say or what Rye has to say, that's a pretty big deal for us.
I agree. So, I could not agree more. It's it really does. So and like Brad was saying, if you leave us a review, it's huge because it boosts us. It boosts us out in Spotify. So we love that. We love that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I should throw that. I should throw that link out there. So if anybody in the audience has anything they want to share, any stories you want to share, the link is now active. We are accepting guests. So you'll find it in the chat.
And hi Mouse, hi Smurfy, hi everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for always tuning in and watching. This is always fun. Like I love doing this. Like I went to the Bohemian Grove down in Florida with the Nephilim Death Squad guys, and they pulled me up in front of their live audience in person and on Rumble. They were streaming on Rumble Premium to a few thousand people, and they pulled me up and they were like, "Hey, they asked me, they said, you were at Bohemian Grove 1 and 2. You're the only person who's been to both. Like, what do you enjoy about coming to these shows?" I'm like, dude, this is so cool to get to talk to people in person and to like hear stories in person and to like, it's so cool, man. I love this stuff. So I'm always happy to be here, like I said. And
I agree. Yeah, I was about to say that I'm allowed to gift 10 memberships a month out to my my viewers, but it's completely random. So it might be, even if you've watched it last week and you're not watching it this week, that's how it does it. So I apologize, Jackie. Mouse has been in every single one of these and she's never received one of my random gifts. So it happens. All right. So Sunny Cat, being from Gulf Coast, Florida, I love good skunk cape or creepy water stuff. Yeah. Let's see. BJ, I am in the process of doing a 3-day vendor show right now, and I'm sending my customers that are into this stuff your way. Give them your YouTube channel. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. That really helps us out too. Like Brad and I, we're not these big shows. And it's nothing against those big shows. We just don't have the budget to do any advertising. So what our advertising is word of mouth, and from people such as yourself, BJ. We really, really appreciate that. So if you guys share our channel, you share Brad's, share mine. Even if you're just talking with someone, they're like, "Oh, I'm into UFOs." Well, say, "Hey, I know this great show," and we thoroughly, thoroughly appreciate that.
Listen, they definitely.
Yeah,
Smurfy, they don't favor me, I promise you.
Oh, I got one last month, then it was on hold. Yeah, Jackie, that's what happened was YouTube put my account on hold due to logistics. We'll just say it's logistics because YouTube has to mail you this PIN number, and it couldn't get to me because the Mexico mail system is terrible. So then I had to go a different route. So I was able to rectify that. So last month was kind of like the big issue. It was down for like 3.5 weeks, and then I got it all back up.
Ryan, you can jump in if you want, buddy. I actually have never met Ryan and I live in the same town, and we even go to the
Really?
same church, but we've never actually met. Yeah, he works out of town, so we've talked about getting lunch together a couple of times. We've just crossed paths. We missed. There's two different services at church. He goes to the early service. I go to the late one because I like to sleep in. And so, like, we always kind of ships crossing in the night.
Interesting. That's interesting that you never run into each other, and it's kind of like.
Well, I'm sure we do. I just I don't know what he looks like. So, like, I'm sure we see each other all the time. We just,
and then you realize, oh, I see him all the time.
Yeah. This is a small, big town, so it's not like, Sunny Cat, where are you at? Are you in Tampa area? Answer immediately.
I apologize. I'm just grabbing a quick bite to eat.
I ate some burgers earlier, but yeah. So like, I'm in South Carolina. Have you heard about the monkeys going on the loose here in South Carolina?
I did.
43 monkeys escape in Yemassee, which is in this county called Beaufort County in our state. And so, like, not far from Yemassee is Monkey Island. So there's this where they escaped from is called Alpha Genesis. It's a monkey they like a testing lab for testing products and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And these monkeys are, I guess they were all young females and they haven't been tested on yet or something like that. And somebody opened the door. One of the guards opened the door and left it open on accident. So now there's monkeys all over the state, probably right about now. But it's not uncommon because, like I said, just down the road is a place called Monkey Island, which is a very weird thing to have in your state. Is an island off the coast of South Carolina, not really off the coast, but it's in the water. I mean, it's kind of in the water in this area called Morgan Island. So
yeah,
and there's a lot of theories. I don't know much about Monkey Island because it's kind of it's a U.S. I think it's like a U.S. Navy program or something out there, and who knows what the hell they're doing. But it's like one of the only places in the United States with that many monkeys. So for some reason, South Carolina is a hotbed for monkeys.
That's crazy. 43. Did they vote?
No. 90 minutes north of Tampa.
PJ,
cool.
So they know for sure they weren't tested on. Yes, they do. At least that's the story they're telling us, right?
What? I missed it. I'm sorry. I was reading Sunny Cat's. Then what did you say?
No problem. I was saying, so PJ was PG. I say PJ, but PG was saying, so they know for sure they weren't tested on. And I'm like, well, that's the story. That's the story they're going with,
Yeah, the CDC has to regulate things like that, so they have a close watch on all the testing and stuff that they're doing there. The biohazard. You think about the movie Outbreak, right? Like they want to make sure that there's no diseases coming out of this place, because when you have that many wild animals in a place, I would imagine there's a lot, and feces probably being flung all over the place. I would imagine there's diseases flying. So it makes you wonder if there's like a distraction, like having, every time something happens, man, my conspiracy mind just goes straight to like, all right, what the fuck's going on now? What are they trying to distract us from?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. Like when Kardashian was all done up in her alligator regular, like lizard. Yes. At first I was like, oh my God, she's showing her true colors. But then I'm like, okay, so this is like drawing way too much attention. What are they trying to distract us from? Smurfy, you're living the high life, man. You're living the high life.
That's a mating ritual. They were trying to mate with you, Smurfy. That's what it was.
Trying to impress you. Awesome. So, again, if anybody wants to come on, we have the link. It's active in the chat. If you want to come on, you've got a story you want to share, don't be shy.
Well, he's a little bit like BJ. He's a good old boy, so he's probably trying to figure out how to click the link and set up his mic and camera and all that stuff. But I think you just got to click the link, dude, and your phone or your laptop or your MacBook or whatever you got will probably ask you. No wonder my butt is starting to like a bad.
Oh my God, this is awesome. This is the kind of stuff that I live for, man. This is great. It's like, yeah, we're here to talk Bigfoots, cryptid, UFOs, and monkeys throwing poop.
So, right down the road from where me and Ryan live is a place called Bishopville, South Carolina, which is famous for the Bishopville lizard man. Like, and when I first moved here, in this area, I didn't have a clue at how big the lizard man was until I went to, there's this place, they have a cotton museum, a South Carolina cotton museum in this very small town. And this was when I first started my web design company. And I went in there and I was like, hey, I got a new company. I'm looking to, build websites if you need me. And anyways, long story short, I was talking to the guy for a couple hours and he was telling me that he had a bunch of like lizard man t-shirts and stuff for sale. Okay. And he said that the lizard man shirts he sells so much that it keeps him in business. And I said, well, who are you selling lizard man shirts to? And he said, he sells them online, and it's mostly people from like in the Asian countries like Japan and China and places like that. They're big into paranormal stuff. So they do like tours around the US where they go from location to location, and Bishopville is on that map, is one of those stops for them. Yeah. So like this little small town gets a influx of, tourists, I guess you could say, for paranormal stuff. But I'm not in a spot where I can call it. Okay, yeah, cool. But
so
I'd like to know your opinion.
I'd like to know your opinion on orange orbs. Brad can describe what I've been seeing near my property. Sure, let's hear of it.
Yeah, so he's been seeing, like, he has a farm, I guess you could say. I could be wrong about it. I think he's got a farm. And he's always outside doing work, and he's always outside right at night and everything. And these little him and his wife keep seeing these, or him mostly, but then his wife sees them and she's starting to kind of get a little freaked out by it all. But the orange orbs appearing in his yard all the time. And most recently, it was a few weeks ago, I guess, about a month ago, in my house, I guess, is about 15 minutes from around the area where he lives. And we had this Marine Osprey helicopter plane flying, just doing back and forth loops around the woods.
Those are the ones that can change, that kind of like turn into like a helicopter kind of thing, right?
That's right. They just, they hover and then they can take off, go forward, whatever. It's like it's like a weird airplane helicopter hybrid. And it was just flying all over the place. It was good. It was just going constantly. And I kept going outside to look. And it was kind of like, I was like, what the hell is going on? Why is there, a plane going, I thought it was a helicopter at first, and it kind of is. And so he and I were texting back and forth, and I can't remember if it was him that sent me a link that showed that it was somebody was tracking it, and it was a Marine Osprey. And so, like, it's a weird thing to get military aircraft. We don't have military bases nearby. There's a nearby base, probably about an hour or so, hour and a half away from us, that is Shaw Air Force Base. But we're not, and that's the town where Jim Lee lives. And but it's not, you don't get Marine. That's an Air Force and / Army installation. So you're not going to get Marine aircraft. So anyways, he and I were texting, and he said, oh, there's a lot of plane activity, near my house as well. And I wonder if it has something to do with this, like, sparkling donut. I think he is the best way he described it, in his yard. And he and I were talking. I'm like, I wonder if that was a portal. I wonder if that was like some sort of like portal, and these helicopters are chasing something around in the woods or looking for something to try to, that's where my mind goes. And it makes me think that, like, what if they have like plasma guns and all these different things that, like, they or some sort of like Ghostbuster, like, what are the
like the portal gun of Rick from Rick and Morty?
Yeah, like, well, what if our government has like this equipment? Like, I don't really think that our guns, like our regular guns, really matter. Like, I don't think people really care about I don't think our government really cares about our guns, because they probably have these fucking awesome, excuse my language, I guess I shouldn't cuss on your channel like that, but
that's fine.
They have these awesome, I would assume they have these awesome plasma shoots plasma, or like what are the streams? What is the I know it's
like
called
the
the
proton
proton pack.
streams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the proton
they have.
streams.
Well, you know what's kind of crazy is that like the movies that we watch in the future movies, they still have like projectile type of weapons, even though they've
Yes.
achieved these kinds of advancements, scientific advancements, and we're still using like projectile type of weapons.
I rewatched Stargate the other day for the first time, and I guess I haven't.
I remember you said you were going to do that.
Yeah, it was because it kept popping up everywhere, and I was like, I guess I got to watch this, and it was pretty interesting. Yeah, he said his family has seen him for 70 years.
70 years.
Yeah.
So, like, my personal opinion on Orbs. So, I'll kind of give some, like, here in Mexico, whenever you see kind of like an orb, whenever they talk about orbs, like in Central Mexico, they say that they are brujas. Those are the witches, and they turn themselves into orbs, and that's what they are. So the ability, I believe, and I know you're talking about like plasma portals as well. And I believe, like, I'm with you that these creatures, not all of them, but some of them come through these portals. And like you said, I think they start off as these balls of plasma and these balls of light that are able then to change into whatever creature that they maybe have set up. Like, it's like I'm like you come through through this portal, and you're able to move around in this orb of this light orb, and then you manifest into the physical realm, which what we are in.
Yes.
And that's where they come through. And I like your idea of saying like they take on more of like local physical aspects, whether it be like a rotting corpse or something like that. Like they're taking all these materials, these atoms, these molecules to create this physical body, because the body has to come from somewhere. That physical side has to come from somewhere, because you can't get nothing can come from nothing, and that's one thing where I will disagree with the Big Bang, where this is there was nothing, and then all of a sudden there's a Big Bang, and then there's something. But yeah, so I believe that they are these beings from another time and another place, and they have come through into our reality, and this is the form they have for their almost a transportation, and then they manifest into a physical side.
Well, and this is before I even saw Stargate. Well, when you watch Stargate and you see the Stargate, the portal that they have when they walk through it, it is plasma. They walk in through a big old plasma portal, and then they, dematerialize, shoot to another other Stargate, and then they rematerialize upon entering that new portal or Stargate. So but we were talking about the weapons, and it's funny because even on that movie, the slaves of the movie were shooting at the at Ra, the god or whatever he was. They were shooting at him with like regular bullets, and meanwhile his henchmen, the Ra's henchmen or whatever, has like these plasma spears that are shooting plasma balls at people, and like that's kind of how I see it. It's like we would be the slaves with our little pea shooters shooting at these things, meanwhile they have all this technology that could my wife is 100% non-believer. Yeah, and
they have even shaken up her reality. It's no swamp gas or done or drone. Hopefully, I said or done. Hopefully, I can join you guys with my my photos and videos. Yeah, we'd love that. And hey, Malaya, how's it going, Malaya? You need to get Walter to contact Brad here. So Brad is all about the 33rd parallel, and I know Disneyland is on the 33rd parallel. So you got to get Walter and Brad hooked up so they can have a fantastic discussion, because I think that would be amazing.
Does he talk about Disneyland on the 33rd parallel? Is that part of his conversation?
Oh, yeah. He talks about definitely. Like the vortex that it creates, like where the carousel originally was right in the center, and like design that it would create this vortex by like like manipulating that area, that energy. Of course I don't do it justice. Walter is the guy who talks about this, but it's quite amazing.
And I would like to ask Ryan this. Ryan, when you see these things, when is it usually happening? Is it
Good question.
nighttime, morning time, or like when the sun's starting to go down? And I have a theory because I think I know what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, and Ryan, if you got a cell phone and just a headset, that's all you need for this. You know, you just click on it and it will take you here, and you can come on and you can tell us about that.
Yeah, so most of these things happen at dusk or dawn, right? Super early in the morning.
Well, is it happening then because, well, I guess at dawn and dusk, but I'm saying, like, you know, is it happening during the day, but we just can't really tell because of the light? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. So, you know, there's solar winds that are coming from the sun, right? And these solar winds are charged, the particles, they're electrically charged particles, so that when they're coming at Earth, the Earth's magnetic field is creating this shield around it, and it's like pushing against these solar winds. And these solar winds kind of flow around, and they create these different things like so they flow around, but the central force field that the magnetic field of Earth is creating is called the magnetosphere or the magnetosphere, and that creates a plasma sphere. And so you have this little ball of plasma that's constantly sitting there. And again, this goes to my theory of like plasma portals, of course, but like that plasma, so it's all these ions that are just waiting for things to kind of come through. And as the Earth rotates, there's a period of time where the sun or the Earth is not as protected against the sun, right? It's weaker because the sun's drifting over to another side, right? Yep. Or it's rotating. And so as it rotates, that plasma, it creates almost like a little vortex of energy from the telluric currents. And this little vortex of energy combined with the plasma is like a perfect storm for these things to just come through. And, you know, even with the helicopter, the Osprey that was flying all around our town, it had just gotten dark. Like, I think it wasn't long before, you know. So I would like to know for sure when Ryan was seeing these things come in, or when he, like, for example, the sparkling, I think he described it as a sparkling donut. I could be wrong about that, but
that is awesome.
not a donut, I guess. I mean, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but a ring or something that was like.
Well, you know what that sounds sparkling. Like, and again, it's like movies copying reality. You know, when you got the what is that, the Avengers or the Endgame or Doctor Strange, and he's got the ring, you know, and they're able to open up these portals, like,
or like
they're
Sonic.
sparkling rings.
Or like Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Where it's like this little ring that you just walk right into another reality.
Exactly. Futurelands, if you want to come on, by all means, we'd love to hear your perspective on the Jinn, the Islamic perspective on the Jinn. Yes, 100%. Also, Malaya was saying that when we were talking earlier, you know, that fits right into our upcoming webinar, Transtemporal Cosmic Mysteries. So, interesting.
Is it Malia or Malaya?
It could be Malia. I could be wrong. So you say Malia, I say Malaya. If you're still on here, say Brad was right or Ryan was right, just so we know, because I don't want to be saying
Malia. Yeah, I think it's Malia. Yeah. I bet it's Malia.
Okay.
Depending on where she's from too, that would make a big difference. So I don't know where Ryan went. I guess maybe he's trying to call in or something. I don't know. Disneyland Vortex. I gotta, you know, Tony did an episode about this, right? I mean, you did an episode as well.
Okay. Hey, look who's on. We got Walter on. Okay, so let's bring Walter on. Where is my proper? Here we go. No, I don't like doing that. I like to give us all a equal. Walter, how you doing?
Muted,
here we go. Yeah, you're muted. You're muted. Hang on, I'm just gonna change the layout. There we go. Just changing the layout here. There we go. Fantastic, Walter. Great to have you on.
Hey, yeah, Malia
Walter.
just gave me a heads up, and
Awesome. So Walter, this is Brad that I've been trying to get you guys coordinated together, because of the 33rd parallel Disneyland. I love that episode. It's one of my favorite episodes, and I told you that's like one of my best episodes to date.
cool.
Oh, Future Lance, I'm going to bring you on in about 20 minutes. Okay, I know you're sitting in the green room. If you want to stay, that's fine. Walter is just on right now, so after he's done, or he can stay on too. When we bring Future Lance on, he's going to talk about the Jinn after as well. But Walt, yeah, let's go ahead.
Hey,
Welcome, Walter. You look like Steve Bannon a little bit. When you first popped in, I was like, is he like, I don't mean to, I don't hope that's not an insult. I'm not trying to be insulting, but I was like, oh, is that Steve Bannon with a nice haircut? And
I'm not anti-Steve.
Fantastic. So Walter, I was telling, I've told Brad about this before, that you, like, our first episode that we talked about was Disneyland in the, the 33rd parallel running right through Disneyland, and how they constructed it with the carousel, I believe. Again, I know you've corrected me on that one. It's not a merry-go-round, it's a carousel.
Well, no, technically it is a merry-go-round because it's all horses, but they call it a carrot. At Disneyland, they refer to it as the carousel, and it's got 2 R's in it. So,
Oh, interesting. And Brad is all about the 33rd parallel. So he's done a lot of research on the 33rd parallel and all, like, I don't want to say megaliths, but like the mounds and everything else that is quite peculiar, and all the tie-ins to the 33rd parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually going out and visiting some of these places myself, and believe me, it's way crazier than what we even know about. I mean, we just know about some of the well-known things of the 33rd parallel.
Right.
Just going into the national forest here in South Carolina or Georgia or wherever, right here in our area, there's a place called 40 Acre Rock. Mm-hmm. And it's like basically this giant flat rock where there's no mountains here in the low country of South Carolina. And so it's this giant flat rock of just stone, and it makes you wonder what's underneath it. So there's things like that we just don't even know about, that are, all over the place. So,
well, it's likely that it's a big, gigantic piece of granite, right?
Yes.
And, the whole thing with granite being, let me see if I get this. It is piezoelectric, right? Or it has piezoelectric properties, and, so it can store energy and things like that. And, we're all familiar with David Paulides' work, and, he points out that the presence of granite is abundant, with the more mysterious occurrences and disappearances in his stuff. And, I'm definitely in the school of thought that what he's talking about has a connection to the disappearances.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I used to watch stories. I watched a lot of Gaia, watched a lot of Ancient Aliens and all these other different shows. But I really went through this period of just watching all these things, like David's movies and stuff like that. And every time I watched them, I would hear stories about people going into the national forest, and then they kind of come to, and they're in California, but they're in like hiking gear. Yeah, they started off in Michigan, and now they're in the Northeast, and now they're in California, and they're just like, what the hell am I doing here in California? Right. And they're in their gear, and it's 7 years later or something like that. It's very interesting, but
it's weird stuff.
Yeah, but the properties of these granite, you could wrap. I saw a YouTube video of a guy doing this one time. You can actually wrap copper wire around some of these pieces of granite, and you can actually see it hover. You got to connect the current to it almost. I mean, it kind of acts as a electromagnet, but you kind of got to connect wires to it and stuff like that. But you can actually lift. He shows that you can lift granite, and it just kind of hovers lightly above the ground. Yeah, just by wrapping it around granite.
And isn't Gettysburg like on top of like a huge quartz granite kind of area as well? I heard that's one of the areas that is like a very large deposit of quartz granite in Gettysburg.
That's interesting, considering all the paranormal activity there.
Exactly, because it's like, especially with the quartz aspect to it. I think I'm not sure if all granite is quartz granite, but because quartz is a retainer, it is kind of like it's a memory chip of sorts. It holds information. It's storage. So, is it storing all these past events and then just kind of replaying it? Or are they kind of like what do they call that when it's a haunting that is a just reoccurring haunting that's not really a ghost?
Yeah, shoot. I actually Malia would know what that is. I would. It's not
residual.
Yeah, there
residual haunting. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be streaming live. We're doing a webinar, the Transtemporal Cosmic Mysteries, kind of a live stream event, and it's like a little online conference. My part, I'm going to be doing from Disneyland. I'm going to be doing 2 30-minute segments from there. I'm going to kind of, be low key about it. Although they let the Disney adults who are travel, they're like travel reporters. They let you live stream from the parks now, as long as you're not being disruptive. And I thought it'd be, really kind of a special presentation if I just did mine from Disneyland itself, talking about the experience I had back in '81. So we're going to be doing that on the 8th of March and in 2025. And so I'm looking forward to that, because I haven't been to Disneyland since 2009. It's been 15 years. I can't believe that. I used to go all the time, but that's the thing about that place. Just moving, as you guys know in the book, just moving the carousel from the spot it was in. I talk about this in the book. It seems to have changed the dynamic of the place and everything. So I'd be interested to know, Brad, if you've noted where carousels have been placed in the places you look at, or if you would go look at places with carousels, and I could help you identify if they're linked to the telluric current spots, in the parallel, in the latitude, that, you investigate the 33rd, because I'll bet you'll find that there are more than a few.
Well, that's interesting. I've never heard the carousel idea, but I just started looking at, when you mentioned it, I'm looking up the etymology of it now to see if there's like a, what if there's a more of a ancient tie-in to the name of it. Why is it called carousel, right? And so, like, why specifically were they naming it carousel? So I started down that path, but I can't really find anything other than car is part of the root word of carousel, but it doesn't show much more than that.
Well, think about here's a new thread for you to pull. When it comes to the CAR prefix, think of Carthage, think of Cartagena, think of places, and not just CAR, for that matter, KAR. And this goes way back, to ancient times. And I in my research, for my book, all I did was cover the origin of carousels, the actual carousel. But I didn't do much in the etymological vein. So I'd be really interested to hear, what you've done in that regard, because,
Sure.
there is something there, I think, in what you're talking about with there's always something in etymology, right? We know that. We learn this when we look at words.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Remember, traditionally, the carousel is the one with all the different animals, what they call the menagerie, right? So kind of throw that one in your mix when you're pulling threads. But yeah, I'd be real curious to see if you go back and look at places you've already investigated, or look at new ones, to see if there's any kind of parks there, or any carousels, particularly old carousels. Because when I've researched this and I found curious spots, it's usually the old carousels, 100 years old, around there. But it could be, a newer one. The idea, Brad, is that the carousel, it's the spinning object, right? Rotating object.
Yes.
With the example that I learned with Disneyland, but also at I want to say Glen Echo in Maryland and some other places, you put the carousel on the telluric current line that runs through the geomorphology of the land. Ideally, a nodal point where there's an intersection of these telluric currents of 2 or more. You put the carousel right on top of that intersection, and the idea is that it draws up the energy, and at the same time it's drawing up, it's distributing it, because it draws it up and then it spreads it out. And the effects this can have are just honestly, like in the case of Disneyland, making people have more fun, just have a better feeling, and kind of just forget their troubles, and for the time they're at the park, and just feel, maybe euphoric or something like that. I think that's the idea that these guys who put these carousels in these spots had. So
yeah, it's a little disorienting as well. The sound that's spinning around and around, it's a little disorienting. But with the telluric currents, it's like, I grew up in the national forest, and my mom called me one night, and she was driving through this place with a lot of springs, obviously places with springs, canyons, volcanic seamounts or volcanoes or whatever can seep through, these currents can seep through the earth, always have heavier than normal telluric currents. And so my mom was driving over this area where there's a lot of springs. The road is really bad because the springs have weakened the road. And I was on the phone with her, and she was like, "What the hell? I just drove past this place, and now I'm 2 miles back, and I'm about to drive through it again." And I think what happens is like she might have like hit this, this heavier than normal magnetic area, and then we're electrical beings, and you go through this area, it jars. It's almost like I have a hard drive in front of me. If you take a magnet and you want to destroy that hard drive, you could, just by dragging that magnet over that hard drive. It would just completely fry it.
Sure.
And I think that's what happens, is like it's very disorienting in these little vortexes of energy, and it affects us, but these other ancient civilizations, or these aliens, or these disembodied, whatever, they know how to use these energies to their advantage, and then they ride in on them like a wave. You know what I mean? So
sure. Well, there's the first time I heard about this particular idea was in the 80s, and they connected it to, everybody calls telluric currents ley lines colloquially, and I used to as well, until I learned about telluric current. And in the 80s, I read this article or something about a couple of guys who did an analysis of paranormal phenomena, UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, you name it. And they found that the highest concentrations of sightings were at the intersections of these telluric currents or ley lines.
Yeah.
And it was really really measurable in that way. And so from there, people developed the idea that maybe the UFOs kind of follow the telluric current, right? For the energy. And I think that when I looked into the airship mystery of the 1890s and such, I think that maybe there's something to that, the way those were described working. I think they follow the telluric current like an ocean going ship follows currents, streams, the Gulf Stream or whatever, across the oceans. Only these flying machines do this with the telluric current kind of, flowing, because it doesn't just stay strictly on the ground and, like a little 1-inch wide thing or whatever. You got to figure there's an effect. And if you tap into it, wow, as I say that, it just gave me an insight, an illumination on something to do with the airship mystery that I hadn't thought of. I love when that happens. I'll share that later.
Yeah,
I'll keep that one and develop it. But anyway, you get the idea. You get the idea that you know, the UFOs perhaps can follow these things, and I've always found that intriguing. The thing on the springs that you mentioned, a gentleman I've known for 20 years. He's a good friend of mine. I publish his books also. Sesh Hari, he's done some analysis. He's got this book, The Handprint of Atlas. And in that, he explains how telluric current helps form the geomorphology of the Earth, the terrain. And then after the terrain firms up, the current stays in the planet, and it just keeps following the terrain that it helped shape to begin with. And springs, the presence of springs, natural water springs, are a sign of this telluric activity in certain spots. So, yeah, I would say if she was encountering springs, you know.
Yeah, and am I muted? Nope. Okay. No. Yeah, that again, I mean, these, you know, I don't know if anybody's talking, anybody in other than, I'm looking into it, but I don't know how many other people are looking into it. The Schumann resonance. Have you guys ever heard of the Schumann resonance? It's the heartbeat of Earth, obviously. So that spikes. Like, it's pretty clear that there's like a connected field, a collected consciousness, you know, something that it's we're connected etherically, right? And my theory on that is that it's just plasma. We're all just kind of swimming in plasma, like fish swim in the ocean. You know what I mean? And
why not?
Yeah, these just ions that are just constantly flying around and then reforming, and you know, things like that. So when these ions, when these things come in, they're coming in through these, you know, Ryan and I have talked about this a lot of times before, and I talk about it on my show. It's just plasma portals, you know, and they're using the putrefied ions from dead animals to kind of, you know, that are just kind of floating around. And that's why these Bigfoot smell terrible and they look like 15 different animals. And, you know, I've had friends that do logging that say they've seen panthers and stuff in the middle of the woods, and just different animals that are, you know, I would imagine that these things just, my brother, for example, saw like a half deer, half fox. He's like, I don't even know what it was. And it was moving in a way that I've never seen anything move. It was sickly. And it was just like, kind of like the way it was crawling was like spacey. And again, that just goes to my theory of what I'm trying to say is like, it's just pulling, when these things come in, they just pulling from whatever they can. And that's why they form into, you know, in the atmosphere, they're going to pull from the metals and stuff that are in the atmosphere, and they're going to form into like what looks like metallic objects. You know, so if they're forming in the swamps, they're going to look like, it's, you know, swamp creatures, lizards, or whatever they can, you know, the putrefied ions they can use to come in. So again, I think
this sounds like how, you know, members of Congress usually emerge.
Yeah. Well, all these buildings are, you know, all these obviously all these buildings that are on ley line, you know, all these Capitol buildings are on ley lines, and they're made of, you know, conductive rock, essentially. A lot of them. In Mississippi, there's a volcano underneath the Capitol building in Mississippi. So
I didn't know that. That's wild. What is you notice a lot of the domes some of them are copper, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, come on, what are they doing there? Right.
So I did an
episode. Yeah. What are they conducting there? Yeah.
Yeah, and they tell us about it in movies. I mean, if you look at the, you know, Back to the Future movie, I just did a show with PJ Williams from Real Conspiracies on Back to the Future, and you can see it in movies. I mean, they're talking about plasma portals in movies essentially, and how, you know, the clock tower was this old building that has a spire on the top, you know, that the lightning shoots down through it and shoots into the car. The car shoots in through a portal. I mean, they're telling us about everything they're doing all the time, you know, and it's pretty interesting that you know, somebody knows it's pretty clear that our government knows what's going on, because in my hometown, in literally the house I grew up in, there's a video online where UFOs are flying over the top of it, and the guy who films it was living at the head of our dirt road that I grew up on, and he was filming them, and he said he would go out every night and film these things. And every night the military would come in and chase them off. So my idea is that the energy grid that you were just referring to earlier that they travel on was blown up somehow, whether it be a cataclysm or whether it be our government actually doing it. But it seems like these things are the military is chasing these things off. It seems like these things are rebuilding or trying to rebuild this like energy grid, if you will, so they can draw motive power to travel around like a subway system. There's a lot of
maybe they go back and forth. Maybe we share the same real estate in a different dimension. And they're just trying to keep the divider, the curtain, so to speak, the veil is the term usually used. That's I like that idea. That's really cool. That's really cool. So, well, hey, I got to take off. I got to run an errand. But
for sure, Walter.
Thank you for giving me a heads up and let me pop in here. And Brad, let's talk.
Yes, sir.
Contact me at I guess well, Rye can give you my contact, or you can contact me at contact@walterbosley.com.
And hold up your books. I'm sure you got your books nearby. But everybody, if they want to check out his books,
walterbosley.com is where my books are at. And also, if you're interested in the Trans-Temporal Cosmic Mysteries webinar event, that's going to be on March 8th, 2025, where for my segment, I'll be streaming from Disneyland, talking about the stuff that happened to me in this book. Check it out also at walterbosley.com. So, and I have the Walter Bosley channel, as you guys know, at YouTube, and check that out too.
Walter,
he's got great guests on there.
We'll definitely talk, man. I want to talk to you about something.
Definitely, Brad. I want to hear from you, and Rye, thank you, and I'll see you guys soon, I hope.
For sure, Walter. You take care. Thanks for coming on.
All right,
take care, man. Yeah, the plasma portal idea, people are always interested whenever I say that. They're like, oh, that's an interesting thought. And I think it's because like it's been, plasma is the fourth state of matter, but we never hear about it. We always hear solid, liquid, and gas.
You do not at all. You do not hear anything at all. So
and why is that? So
great question. So I don't want to mess up the name. Fertilance, who was wanted to talk about the Jinn, he popped in just after Walter did. So we had Walter first come first serve kind of thing. But let's bring Fertilance on. He's going to talk to us about the Islamic viewpoint on the Jinn. So I'm excited to hear about this as well. This has been a fantastic show. All right, Future Lance, welcome to the show, and feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you, guys. I hope you can hear me, Rye and Brad.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I'm just going to turn down your mic just a little bit. It's just a little loud, so I'm just going to turn it down just a little bit. Let's try that. Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No worries. Not a problem. So thanks for coming on, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm a huge fan of the show, and listening to you guys every now and then, it always just I've always had this with me. Like I live in Canada, originally from the subcontinent, Pakistan and India. That's where my family is from. And like I said, listening to you guys, I always had this, idea that, somebody has to bring in a different perspective in terms of all of these phenomena that take place. It's just that it's very interesting because if you look at the Arabian Peninsula and the subcontinent, the concept of Jinn is extremely big in those areas. And it's very interesting is because the word Jinn, if you guys would look into the etymology of it a little bit, I think the English language doesn't do it justice because the only equivalent word in English is demon from the Christian perspective.
Okay.
The unfortunate part is demon is just a very single-minded term that describes a species that is just evil or looked upon in but Jinn are a species in Islam just like us. They have good people in them or good Jinn, bad people in them. The difference between us as humans and them, the way it's described in Islam, is that they have supernatural abilities and their world is veiled, like Walter was saying before here, that there's this concept of a veil. We cannot peek into their world. but they can come through it freely. And it's just one of those, you know, phenomena that occur. Now, the interesting part that I wanted to bring to you guys is that they're described in three distinct categories in Islam. And those three categories are ones that fly, which would explain the UFOs and the grays and the aliens. The second ones are the ones who prefer to come in the form of animals. And you guys might find this interesting. The ones that come in the form of animals, they have two specific animals that they absolutely, like you would say, love to transform into. One is a dog, which can go anywhere from being a wolf or a werewolf to, you know, any of your those hybrid animal, you know, creatures that you guys, you know, and people say that they experience and they see. And the second is a snake, which when you think about it, you're like, okay, maybe a snake, but then you start to correlate the stories of the lizard people, like who are these shape-shifting human beings. And the third variety, which in Islam specifically they say that people have to try and stay away from the most, or the ones that are considered to be the most dangerous, are the ones that dwell in filthy places, dark places, like cemeteries, graveyards, like large landfills and stuff. And they're called the najis in Arabic, which is like the ones that love filth. And they are considered the most evil ones. So in terms of the ones, you know, or the ones you'd associate with like, you know, poltergeist activity in abandoned houses, abandoned building, places which you would basically say desolate. But it's very interesting because they're a very distinct species. They have good people in them or good jinn in them, and bad people or bad jinn in them. And these are the three main distinct varieties of them. They come and they are basically manifesting themselves in ways that at times we can't perceive, and at times we can perceive. And the times we can perceive them, it's like the experience leaves you in a way that you're like, what did I, you know, was this even real? Did that actually happen? Did I actually see something walk through my room? Did that curtain actually just move when there's no wind? And the one quality about the jinn is that they live extremely long lives, hundreds upon hundreds of years, centuries long even. But the one thing about them, which it's very interesting, I'm not sure if it's from like an actual reference point, but their developmental state is such in some instances, like you would say that the mental maturity that they achieve at max would be of a 15-year-old. Hence that nature of the concept of a Loki from the Celtics, basically.
Okay.
Mischievous, love to play tricks on you. So if one day you observe a shadow and you obsess about it and you're like, what's there? Who's there? Who am I talking to? They'll go a step further, switching on and off lights in your house. And the concept of attaching themselves, you observe something in the woods that you can't explain, you come back home and you say those experiences are following me here. So it's a very interesting concept, and I just wanted to, you know, just kind of bring that to your attention to see if you guys can maybe, because the species itself is supernatural. Like they have supernatural abilities given to them by God, and they're behind a veil which they can cross and just kind of manifest themselves in weird ways to us. So I just wanted to see what you guys thought about that, and maybe might give some perspective to you guys.
The 33rd parallel runs directly through the Middle East, including Pakistan. So it's not surprising to me that there is a ley line that runs right through the middle of an area that's well known for a lot of this kind of stuff, the Jinn and stuff like that. But what are your thoughts, Rye?
Well, I think it's definitely a, like, I think a name is something that, you know, just changes through the cultures. We see the same thing within different cultures, but it's always given a different name, such as, you know, like you look into the Mayans and the Aztecs, you know, they have Quetzalcoatl and as the feather serpent, which is like the main god. But, you know, you go into like Ra in Egypt, So I think we are seeing the same things, exactly like you're saying. We are seeing the same things. Like these shape changer ones. The ones that can turn into the dog, like a dog man kind of thing, or into the snake. We have our reptilians. You're just talking about the lizard man of where was it, in
Bishopville, South Carolina.
Bishopville, yeah. Like a lot of people believe these creatures are some sort of shape changers. And where are they staying? Like we see them, but I think they're coming back. They're kind of like crossing over into our realm and then back over. But these shape changers, and like you're saying, like you could be a werewolf, it could be like a dog. Well, there's lots of stories about the black dogs, right? There's a ton of stories about black dogs. Here in Mexico, they talk about the brujas or the brujos who change into black dogs so they can go and spy on people. So that is like, there's a lot of similarities here. And the Jinn, when you said, like, we said Jinn is demon, for me, Jinn was always like a genie as well. And it's interesting that you bring up that their mental capacity of a 15-year-old, that really would explain a lot, like, hold grudges, and to, how their mentality of like being a trickster, like Loki, you're saying as well. It's really interesting. But the ones that I found also maybe a little terrifying are like the filth demons. It's it's almost scary. Like, and you look at like the hoarders. You look at people who are hoarders. Are they being affected or manipulated by these demons? Is that a possibility as well?
100%. And that's like I said, those are definitely the ones that in Islam they say those are the ones that you need to try and keep your distance from the most, because they're the ones who you would associate with the poltergeist activity or the possessions, if you believe in that. And that's exactly it. Like you mentioned, when you went to the Egyptian culture, for example, you look at the example of Anubis. Like, where would the Egyptian people get caught? Like, did they have animalistic heads that they made of dogs and jackals? And they said it's a manifestation of a jackal in terms of a god that represents the underworld. Or did they have contacts with these creatures? Horus, the god of kingship in Egypt, right? So like it's interesting concept if you look at it from that perspective. And absolutely, yeah, it's just their mentality is shown to be, yes, holding grudges, having that feedback loop, right? The more you feed, like, when people say, internal energies and stuff, when you feed into their belief, when you feed that there's something there, they play more on you. The more you give them control over your life, your house, whatever it is, the activity increases, because then they say, okay, now we're here, we're gonna assert our dominance. So it's a very interesting topic to have a conversation on. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys were kind of aware of that, and just what did you guys think about that, basically?
And I really appreciate you giving your perspective on it, because that's something we don't hear a lot here. We're very North American centered, because that's most of the listeners. But I love that you came on and you're giving us your point of view. Like, I really appreciate that, because it's fantastic. And if you have any more of your legends, or I don't want to call them legends, but like if any more of these stories of the Jinn, I would love to hear them. Is there anything else that pops out to you? And someone was saying that Petra, I heard that Petra has some really bad Jinn in there. Is that does that come up at all?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure in terms of like Petra or any of the areas from like the like I mentioned, the Arabian Peninsula. I think the only main reference that I can go back to is basically King Solomon. Like, King Solomon was a prophet in Islam too. Like, we call him Sulaiman alayhi salam, peace be upon him, and he was one of the most powerful prophets of God, of Allah. Now, the one thing about Sulaiman that differentiates him from all other prophets in the lineage is that he was the one who was actually given dominion over Jinn. Like, they were under his command. They built his temple, the Solomon's temple, and they were the ones who basically I don't know, like, I mean, in the Christian faith, or I think it's more of a biblical history for it. But like, they were the ones who stole the throne of Sheba, the queen of Sheba. Her throne they stole when she was on her way to meet King Solomon. And King Solomon had them in his court. They openly used to communicate with him. They were his builders. They were the ones who constructed cities for King Solomon. But he, as far as Islam is concerned, and as far as our knowledge goes back in this perspective, he was the only known human being to have full control over them. And yet again, I think that kind of feeds into the conspiracy theories as to why, you know, they're always trying to dig beneath Solomon's temple, because his books were the books on the capturing of demons and this and that, and like all of that knowledge. But you know, not to go into conspiracy realm, like, but the thing that is established in Islam, that he was one of those kings, one of those prophets who was also a king, and he had dominion over those people, which were the Jinn, and he was the only one. So like, that's the only thing. I don't know if it I don't think it was Petra. I mean, it's Jerusalem, right, where he was, where Solomon's temple is. I'm not exactly sure of the geography of it, but
what have you? First of all, can you pull up a picture of Petra, Jordan, real quick, just so people understand? I've been here, and I want people to understand how big these doors are in this place, or these entryways are into this place. First of all, it's a mountain. It's a temple that's carved into the mountain. You know, and so that goes to the old world Tartaria stuff as well. Like, but yeah, look at it. I mean, if you're talking about giants, then you know we have to consider that giants might have been living there in that area. So it's pretty interesting. But Fertilance, you're into this for a reason. Have you had any spirit experiences or anything? Is that?
I mean, it's like, I come from a culture where, like, I personally haven't had an experience. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, but like,
Sure.
My dad has experienced things, and he's told me about them. But the thing with I think people from areas like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia is like, they don't like to talk about this stuff. I think it's the same. I think you guys might notice this in the Native Americans as well. Yeah, they don't like to talk about this stuff, right? Either out of ridicule or shame, or just that, you know, people might make fun of them or something. It's not really a topic that's spoken about a lot. It's just, the thing is that it's just taken upon its word. Like, yeah, we know these things exist. We are not the only creatures in this world given the ability to think and to process, and to, you know, like, there are other beings of God that we are not aware of, and sometimes our roles, you know, our paths cross, and then that's it.
Yeah, I agree, Cress. Check out Sean Hibbler's Old World Order for sure. And yeah, he's got a great film on a lot of these ancient buildings. But yeah, it's interesting, man. And I think I had Paul Stobbs on. I think Paul Stobbs mentioned Solomon and the Jinn working for him. So really? Yeah, I think in the episode I had him on, I think he was going through the lineage, and it was of Nephilim essentially. And which, again, we have different names for this stuff. It's the same stuff, but you mentioned like it's not just taboo in Islam or Native Americans. It's very taboo in Christianity as well. Like, people don't talk. You don't go to church and they just talking about demons. All their, you know, most of the time at church they're talking about faith, hope, and love your neighbor, and you know, Jesus, and I mean a bunch of good, you know, it's good stuff. But it's like you also want to know about the bad stuff too, right? You want to know about if there are demons around us all the time. My preacher, he's a 70-year-old man at another church I go to. I don't different from the one Ryan and I go to. He told me he has, you know, once he joined the spiritual battle, these things kind of came at him, and he had some encounters with some demons or something, you know. So, but it's frowned upon, or it's not talked about in Christianity too. It's like everybody believes in this stuff, but nobody ever says anything about them whatsoever. And if you told them that there's a demon you've seen a demon or you've had interaction with demon, they would think you're crazy. It's like you believe in them, but you don't. Or if you told them you had an interaction with an angel, they wouldn't believe you. So
what about
yeah, exactly.
Head Trip asked a question here. It says, did King Solomon really have a ring to control them? Did he have a ring to control them?
In Islam, we don't have a specific concept. I mean, some prophets had like objects, like Moses had his staff. Same concept in Islam too. He had a staff. So whether King Solomon had a ring or a book, I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. He just had the ability. He had God's permission to command the jinn, and how he commanded them. There's a word in Arabic we say Allahu Alam, which means God's will. He knows, it's his knowledge. He never shared those with human beings, specific human beings. He shared them with human being. Solomon was one of those human beings. He was his prophet. How he controlled the jinn, we don't know. So much so that there is a very famous story about Solomon's death, that the jinn were constructing a building for him at the time of his death, and he was leaning on his staff, standing. The jinn were scared of him. Solomon had powers from God, so they were so much scared of him that they just thought Solomon's standing in front of us, so we got to keep constructing this thing. What kind of a building it was, what kind of structure it was, we don't know. But the jinn didn't know until his staff gave way when termites basically ate through it and his body fell. That's an actual story in Islam about him, the Prophet Solomon, passing away, and the jinn kept working out of fear of him, being angry or retaliating. And he passed away, but his body kept standing because he was leaning on his staff, and his staff was just, until his staff gave away when the termites ate. But like then again, it's something that's told through Islamic history, is to what the origin of the species itself, much older than human beings. They were here in Islam. They were here before humans. They were the ones who were causing havoc on earth, and then God cleansed the earth from them to a large extent and put them behind whatever veil God did, and then the extradition of, you would say, Adam and Eve onto Earth, and then the progression of our species onto this planet. And it's interesting, in Islam, the one that you guys call the devil, the main head, Satan, Iblis, he is one of them. We don't have a concept of fallen angels. Like, angels in Islam do not have the ability to go against God. They are all jinn. Now, Iblis himself, or Satan himself, was a very devout servant of God. But when God created Adam and told the angels, this is all in Islam, when God created Adam and told the angels to bow to him, he was the one, Iblis, Satan, because he was a jinn. He had the ability, just like us human beings, to either go by God's will or deny his will. He said, no, I'm not bowing to him, because you created man with clay and I was made by fire. Why should me being someone who was made from fire, bow down to someone who was made from clay? He is beneath me. So then God was like, go away. And he was like, give me till the end of time, and I will take most of his creation, most of Adam's progeny, with me to hell. And God was like, you will take, but you will not take those that I will bring to me. So it's a very interesting concept, but an older species than us, and definitely has more abilities than us, for sure, 100%.
Do you think, first of all, there's a lot of like oral traditions are in the Middle East, are, that's the way things are passed down. Am I wrong in saying that many people memorize the Quran? Is that correct?
That's correct, 100%. It's
for that same reason, for the oral passing down the information through generations, right?
Yeah, I mean, Quran is our religious book. That's like the Bible for Muslims,
Yes.
right? So that's
Right.
the book that was um, given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or peace be upon him, by God as instructions towards us. And if you look at it, it's like the correlation between the what the stories and the revelations given in the Quran versus what has been given in the Bible. There's just so many similarities in them. But there is a tradition of oral learning. Yes, Arabic culture mainly was an oral traditionalist culture. Like most of the stories that were given, writing wasn't a big thing. Like early forms of the Quran itself, when they were being written down, they wrote them on the bones of camels or leather. Paper wasn't a concept like 1400 years ago in the Arabian Peninsula. I mean, that was a Chinese invention 2000 years ago, and even after that, I don't think it traveled around the world that much, right? So the compilation of the Quran in the form of a book actually took place quite a few decades after Prophet Muhammad's passing. So yes, largely it was an old tradition from the beginning, and a lot of the stories, obviously, they travel orally too as well. Yes.
Yeah, that was similar. Similar with the Bible. A lot of the books of the Bible were written many hundreds of years after the death of Christ. You know, so there's a lot of similarities there. You know, it's funny because I think a lot of this stuff is, you know, just you ever play the whisper game where you whisper something to somebody and then eventually it sounds something different by the time it gets to the end, you know, but we're all talking about the same thing in a way, you know. So, but yeah, you brought
That's exactly it. Yeah, I mean, like I
yeah.
said, like you look at Anubis in the Egyptian culture, and down the line in some other cultures, you have a story of werewolves, or the story of mermaids in cultures that never spoke with each other, or the stories of aliens or beings from the sky, or the sky people, the Anunnaki. It's interesting how different cultures, like Rye was saying, and you've mentioned too, Brad, as well, how different cultures in different times tend to explain these beings, and yet it seems like everyone is kind of, you know, converging towards the same explanation, the same species with abilities to play tricks on you, the abilities to show you things if they want to come in front of you, manifest physical forms, where you think, oh, it's a flesh and blood creature. Like, you know, in some, my belief in some instances, like the Bigfoot, like you see an actual flesh and blood creature with hair and the smell and this and that, but then there are times when people say, hey, you're following the tracks, and in the middle they just disappear, like they went into thin air. So which creature in the world can do that, right? So
Right.
interesting concept.
So, somebody mentioned, or you know, Gene, are they plasma? Are the Jinn made of plasma?
It's a very, very good concept. I don't know. Islam doesn't go into explaining their origins in that way. The way they're described is that they're made from smokeless fire. But my question is,
Well,
religions
fire is
say
plasma.
that we were made. Yeah,
Exactly what I was
well,
going to
yeah. I
say.
mean, fire is plasma or smokeless fire is, but like they're as much as plasma as you and I are dirt or earth. Like, how do you explain human beings being made from dirt? But
Well,
yeah,
it's
they
kind
could
of
be
like
plasma.
it's kind of like what they say: ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You know, which is earth. We are, you know, made from the building blocks of earth, more or less. You know, like we're carbon based. Maybe it's something along that line. And as you're saying, like Anubis, you know, like in Mayan they have Shorol, which is which was the god of fire and lightning, and he was depicted as a dog-headed man. So like there we go again. Like it's
Fire and lightning is both plasma.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like smokeless fire, and they say, well, their attributes come from it as well, because fire can turn into smoke, so they turn into thin air and they disappear. I mean, it's like, you know, you can
Yeah.
try and explain it, but it's just you're dealing with a creature, or a being that is much older than you.
Yep.
and they have a species that's much more advanced than you, of course. Like you look at like, yeah, I don't want to like make it into a cartoonic character, but look at like the mythical city of Wakanda from the Marvel movies, right? It's like they have like they are maybe like the UFO kind, or the ones that fly have these technologies that we would find like magical in their existence. So it's a very interesting concept. So you not only have a species that's much older than us, it's probably more advanced, but at the same time, it's they like to play tricks. They like to influence. They do like to play a part. They like to play tricks on us every now and then, and just it's a weird way to try and explain it, but yet again, with my limited knowledge, I guess.
Well, that's what it reminds me of. Skinwalker Ranch. I watched that show. I don't know how much of it's fake or real, but there's a lot of disembodied laughter all the time on that show. Like people can hear, people who live on the ranch can actually hear disembodied, noises like blah, 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 and then ha 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 ha. Like it's like something's laughing at us as we try to archaically record them or whatever the case is.
Yeah, and that's going to the narrative of their like Loki like nature. Like they love to play tricks. Whatever they think will put you at unease, and you will be like on high alert, like the feeling of the hairs on the end of my arms are standing up, or like that feeling, that bone chilling feeling. So they love doing that. Yeah, you go to a place where you get that feeling, there's a very high likelihood that they're there, because human beings, we have a certain sixth sense about our environment. We might not see stuff, we might not see an imminent danger, but we feel it. Like there is a thing. Like you go to some places, national parks, you feel absolutely fine. Oh, beautiful waterfall, beautiful nature. But then there's other areas where you don't see anything, but you're like, you know what? I don't want to be here after sunset. Or even parts of the city, you're like, you know what? I love it. Yeah, it looks beautiful. I ain't going there. I tell my wife the same thing. I'm like, yeah, beautiful, nice, pretty. Ain't going there. Thank you.
Yeah, that's like I used to walk. We live next door to my grandma growing up, and in this area, it's a levitating card display. Karen, thank you for asking. So basically, that's how the energy grid works. I can stick my hand underneath it. That's like how a UFO flies, in my opinion. But yeah, so living right beside my grandma growing up, we used to walk between yards at night. And you would get this overwhelming sense that something's watching you, and it would turn into a raging sprint over to my grandma's house every night, because it would just and interesting enough, in that very same area where I always felt like something was watching me, there's been a ton of UFOs, Bigfoot type sightings, orbs, my grandma communicating with what she thinks was Bigfoot and stuff like that. So in that exact same area that I felt like something was watching me. But yeah, you get that overwhelming that sixth sense, like, oh crap, what is that? You know what I mean? So then it turns into a raging sprint.
Yeah, and then the strange crossovers. Like Bigfoot has its own world where people only encounter them, and then UFOs, have a different world and people only encounter them. But then there's those weird instances where people say, "Oh, I saw Bigfoot at the same time that I saw a UFO." Yeah. And you're like, there's got to be a correlation. How could an animal, a primate, let's say it's a primate, have a correlation with a being from another planet? Which, in Islam, we don't believe. They're not beings from another planet. They love to say that to humans, whoever has been in contact with them or whatever. They love to say we're from this constellation and that constellation. We come from here. Throughout human history, in the past, it was like, oh, we were from Mars, or these creatures came from Mars. No, it's not Mars. Now we know it's a dead planet. So now they're from Venus, or they're from Saturn, or from the rings of Saturn. And this, no, that's their nature. They love to throw you off the trail. That's what they do. Right? They'll throw you'll see yourself on a set path to trying to find an answer, and then there's gonna be a curveball, right? So it's within their nature. They love doing that. They love, as long as they can keep you guessing. That's what they want. At least the ones of them who are, I guess, I don't know how they're, what they are and how they operate, but I presume there's some of them who are old enough, mature enough, because mostly they're defined as creatures who are very animalistic, but capable of rational thinking, but very childish at the same time. Like Rye was saying, yes, they hold grudges. They love to play around. They love to play tricks. If they think they have, because for whatever is in their nature, they do try and avoid us. I don't know what is the rules for them to operate, and it cannot be an open manifestation all the time. Some people will experience it. You could be sitting right next to someone who says, I see something there, and you'll be like, I don't see anything there, right? So what are the choices that leads to some people experiencing something and other people around them be like, I don't know what's going on? So but like the more you pay attention, the more it's I guess it's the same. If you see one UFO, you have a higher chance of seeing another versus someone who's never seen one at all in your life. Like, yeah, I don't know, I've never seen one, I've looked up the sky my whole life, right? So it's just one of those weird things.
And that makes sense. Like, wherever you aim your energy, that's where you're able to produce things. So if you're like inviting these things in, or if you're like people out feeding Bigfoot, they're attracting this, and there's going to be more and more. And I like that because a lot of people are switching now, instead of being like extraterrestrials, they're switching them to ultra terrestrials. Which plays more into what you're saying. They're not from these outer planets and stuff like that. They're from here, and with you saying like they're messing with us, that makes a lot of sense. It's we shouldn't be looking up. We should be looking within, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's exactly it. Yeah.
Do y'all have a story of the firmament in Islam?
Firmament, I'm not sure.
So maybe like waters of the waters above are separated from the waters below. Like as if there's another ocean above us in the sky, basically, as if space is another ocean or water of some sort.
Yes. So it's references to it from the Prophet's life, not from the Quran itself, not from the main book, but references where there's a very, very, what we call it, hadith, which is the saying of a prophet, and it's categorized into two portions. One is authentic, which you can actually draw lineage from, which of the companions of the prophet said it, and then there's the weak hadith that we call. It is an authentic hadith that says that the throne of Satan is in the middle of the ocean. Why in the ocean? Is because he likes to imitate God. Why? Because the ocean in the sky, the sea with the stars, he likes that on earth, the devil's triangle, or whatever you want to call it. But when you're on the sea and the water is still, the stars are reflected on it. So he places his throne in the water on earth to imitate God on earth. We call it an auzubillah. Not, obviously, he's not, but that's what he likes. That's what he likes, is to imitate God. So yes, that concept of a sea in or an ocean up in the sky of stars is that's very interesting that you said that, because that is a saying of the Prophet in Islam as to what he likes to do, what the Satan likes to do, that he places his throne in the middle of the ocean, dead of night, so that the stars can reflect on the ocean and he can show that he is sitting on top of the stars as well on earth.
Yeah. In Cress, I of course no, I don't denounce the firmament mentioned in Genesis. I of course believe in the firmament. I mean, the firmament, in my opinion, is the ionosphere. It's an impenetrable plasma that we can't go through. I don't think we've ever been to space. I think the ionosphere, I think the firmament is a prism, and God's light shines through this prism, and we are the result of that. We are the refraction of that light. So that's what I think. Chris doesn't seem to like me too much.
No, Chris was just been trying to get to talk about the firmament for quite a while. He was because he was talking about what his name is, Braun, who took over NASA, who started kind of like was the lead of NASA.
Yes. Werner von Braun. Yeah.
Werner von, well, that's it. Werner von Braun. Yeah. And on his tombstone, he had written in, it was a phrase from the Bible, in reference to the firmament above. So that was something that was in there. I can't remember which phrase it was, or it was quoted from the Bible was, and why would someone, the lead of NASA, be having that on their tombstone?
Because he couldn't get to outer space. Have you ever seen one of these things? I've watched the SpaceX thing, and it just curves. It looks like it's scraping something.
It looks like it's scraping something. It's interesting. It's interesting. Well, Fertilance, I want to say thank you so much for joining us, man. That you brought in some great insight, and I really, really appreciate it. I'd love to have you back on again. When we do another live, that you have some great, great information. Really fantastic.
Thank you so much, guys. Ryan, Brad, everyone in the chat. You guys are fantastic. Yeah, I always had this feeling that I always wanted to share the Islamic perspective in this regard, because of all the weird things that happen out there in the world, if I can maybe shed some light on a little bit of an explanation, or at least a different perspective into explaining a phenomenon that none of us can really explain, then why not? But I really, really thank the opportunity, and it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys again.
Yeah, dude. If you're passionate about this stuff, you should be doing a podcast too, or going on the circuit of podcasting, and talking on shows, man.
You have a lot of knowledgeable.
I don't think I'm that knowledgeable in their regard, but
I'm not either, dude. But believe me, people listen. So I try to do my research and study this stuff. I'm not just throwing things out there that I haven't looked into myself before. So, but yeah, you would be great at it. You're a good teacher, so you should do it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much again.
Alrighty, guys. Take care.
Take care, buddy.
Bye. That was awesome. And Encrest is apologizing, but I didn't think he was coming off as being rude. Well, he likes to have a discussion. I saw that through the whole thing. He was like, I want to know about firmament. I want to know about the firmament. And Encrest, I have an interview coming up with David Weiss, Flat Earth Dave, as he is called. Maybe that interview would be something you would like to listen to. That will be coming up in 3 weeks' time, I think, or something like that. So I think you'd be interested in that. I don't know how that one's going to do, if it's going to get a lot of nasty feedback, but it is what it is. That's what we're bringing up, these ideas. We're bringing forth these ideas. We're bringing forth these possibilities, and it's up to you guys to make that decision. Don't believe us per se. We're opening that door, but it's again, you're the arbiter of your own truth.
For sure. Yeah. People get on me about the 33rd parallel all the time. You think that they're Earth, the flat earthers really hate me for that. And I'm like, I think it could be everything. I think it could be a donut. I think it could be flat. I'm not saying
the 33rd parallel can still work on the flat Earth. Why couldn't it not? I get
it. Believe me, dude, I get a lot of hate on that all the time. But I'm not a disbeliever in any of that stuff. I'm like, matter of fact, I talk about it a lot, and people, again, I was just on a show with PJ Williams, and I brought up more land, and he was like, well, I don't really believe in that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily believe it's true or not either. I think that once you discover that they're lying about all these other things, it's like, what else are they lying about? More land, flat Earth? Of course,
Exactly. I definitely believe that there is more land. I 100% believe there's more land. Now, are we on the flat, or are we on a larger globe than what they're telling us? That is where I kind of sit. That is where I sit. But if someone puts a gun to my head to try to make me make a decision, I don't like that. It's like, no, I don't have an answer because I haven't gone up and seen it.
I haven't either.
You can do as many tests as you want, and it's interesting when David Weiss shows these experiments he's done. But for myself, I just like to, I have to see it. Seeing is believing, as they say. Yeah. All right, BJ, you take care and have a great evening. And I think we're coming closer to an end anyhow, because I got to work early in the morning, and I don't want to stay up too late. But there are still flat earthers out there. There are, Jackie, and I will have, like I said, I have an interview coming up. It's interesting, and I don't believe, Jackie. This is what I'll say. I do not believe the globe that they're telling us. I don't believe in it. Okay,
no,
that is what I will say. What I believe is I don't believe in that.
Well, you and I were talking. We had like sometimes we'll talk for like an hour, and we should have recorded it. But we were talking about maps, and we were talking about the Monte Urbano map. And so when you look at these kind of maps, it's like these older maps from the 1500s and stuff.
Sorry, I'm assuming that's not a typo, because I know Smurfy is. That's awesome. But yeah. But sorry for interrupting, Brad.
No, yeah. If you look at these old maps, and me and Rye were looking through a map one night, and as we were,
what was that one called again? Tell me that. That was the Monte
Urbano.
Monte
map.
Urbano. I'm gonna see if I can bring it up. Map. Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up so everyone can see. Oh, you had that link you sent me before. Are you able to share that with me? That link that you had.
The YouTube.
No.
For the Urbano Monte. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yes, because I'll hopefully I can show it without getting in trouble from YouTube. This map is extremely interesting, and so if you have it, wasn't it like didn't you have it on Instagram or something like that?
Yeah, I got it. I'll send it to you in the private chat.
Cool. I'm going to bring this up so everybody take a look at this map. Specifically, take a look at some of the creatures that are on this map. Wow, there's so much more to it as well, but
yeah. So, and that's just one map. I mean, what is the map that we use the most? The Mercator something. I can't remember what the name of it was. That's the one we use the most nowadays. But yeah, look at this map.
Let's go far out here. Here we go.
So yeah, right there, just right there alone, you see what could possibly be some sort of a wall or an ice wall. If you're a flat earther and you're looking at this, you're like, that's pretty clear. It's a wall, like some sort of a wall. If you're looking at it from above, obviously it's some sort of a wall. So yeah, if you zoom in a lot of these places, you'll see like camels where Antarctica is, or
let's go to that.
Lions,
yeah, or wasn't there a centaur? Here we go,
yeah.
Centaur.
Yeah. And what's interesting is like on these maps too, you'll see like find one of those little red buildings if you can. They're like little red castles, as if somebody marked all the castles, where all the castles are like old world type structures are, especially like
these ones here.
Yeah, like those. You remember this is in 1590, and these look like castles or some sort of structures. This is before America was really, settled or anything. So like,
I'm gonna go into the Mexico area because that's where. Yeah, let's go here. This is kind of where I am. I'm in right about in here.
Is there a building that's like a castle style building?
Not castle style, but there's pyramids galore here.
Pyramids.
And this is close to Campeche. That's very similar to saying Campeche, even though Campeche is over this way.
So that goes to show you that they were at least telling the truth about some of these areas, right? At least telling the truth about some of these places. And but we don't see these maps. We see maps that have that, for example, they show Africa is the same size as Greenland on most maps, but Africa, you can fit 12 Greenlands inside of Africa. Yes. But the distortion of it makes it look like Africa is the same size as Greenland. And a lot of people look at that as like some sort of a centric, Eurocentric.
And look at this. This I forget what talks about the four rivers that come out of the center of the earth. There is something that this is because this is the North Pole, right? What is? So I need to read a little bit more on this, but yeah.
I look at Earth as a living organism, just like we are, and we have a toroidal field around us, like our heartbeats. By the way, our hearts are spirals. If you take a heart out of a human body and unfurl it, it is a spiral. It's like a little vortex. And our hearts, when they beat, they create these energy fields that go out from the top of us and the bottom of us. And so it creates a donut shape. And I think that, that's how Earth probably really looks, is some form of a donut shape, more of a, there's a center, just like you just showed, with some sort of a donut energy. Like
whereabouts is Pennsylvania? Is that over here in this area?
I zoom out a little bit. Okay, so that would go in where those lakes are. Like, I mean, you can see that's pretty clear. That's like the Great Lake or whatever. Yeah, that would be the Great Lakes. Don't look like they exist, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is, but that around that area would be where Pennsylvania is, because he is pretty close to the Canada border right there.
Yeah.
In that area where your mouse is right now, somewhere in there, that looks like New York right there. That little island, in that little
inlet here,
atoll or whatever it is. Yeah. That looks like it could be New York.
Wow.
So
it'd be crazy if something was called York here, but considering that being New York. Well, I guess York is more of in England though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, again, when you like, we've never seen that map, and I'm 41 and Rye's, I don't know, 68 or something like that. I don't know how old Rye is, but
48. I'm 48.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, we've never seen that map as kids. We weren't taught that in schools. We're never taught about pyramids in the United States. That's crazy talk. But if you go along the 33rd parallel, or in a lot of these places, they're hidden in the national forest. So why aren't we taught our own history in these books? And so again, just that thing alone is enough cause to go, okay, well, what are they hiding from us? Like, that's exactly. Pretty simple doorway to questioning everything you've ever been taught. Like, we know all about the pyramids of Giza, but we don't know about, and why do they call them pyramids in Giza, but they don't call them, they don't really call them pyramids in, the Mayan civilization. They call them temples or sacrificial whatevers, or, in the mound building cultures in the United States, they say that they were just like, that's where the chief lived. It was the top of that was the chief's. This is the highest point. Like,
and a lot of places are still teaching that the pyramids in Giza or the pyramids in Egypt were like tombs.
Yeah. But I went to the Moundville mounds in Alabama, in Tuscaloosa, and they talk, they have all these statues, they have all these, paintings and stuff that modern day people made. And then when you go and you look in this museum and you're like, where are the artifacts? They have one plate that shows that it could have been a Native American civilization. One plate from the whole 10 mounds, 15 mounds that are there.
Yeah.
They got one plate that says that's definitively Native Americans. Like, that didn't even make any sense. Like, somebody could have just dropped that walking through.
Exactly. It's like, tourists are going to the pyramids now, and someone drops a toy, and then 1,000 years later they find it and like, oh yeah, they must have built it because we found this toy there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
that map is super interesting. I like I said, I hope YouTube doesn't flag me for that. Hopefully it's funny how YouTube gets, but
really, just for showing a map?
For showing a website, sometimes they'll show websites if it's copyrighted of sorts. If it has some sort of copyright on it, I wouldn't say it's YouTube's issue. I would say it's the other people who have copyrighted that material. And what was that? There was that other map too. What was it? What is that other map?
The Perry Reese. What was it called?
The Perry Reese map.
Pierre Reese or something like that.
Yeah. Let me try that. So the Perry Reese map. There we are. My old and this one's interesting as well because it shows a not a frozen Antarctica, right?
Which makes you wonder what happened between 1500 and 2000.
Yep.
as early as 500 years ago. And we just were talking about the lakes, that they don't have lakes on that Urbano map of the Great Lakes in the United States. So was there a flood as recent as
and look
500
at some of these,
years ago?
Look at some of these things on here as well too. It's like this was, I think this is meant to be Antarctica, and again, there's creatures in there. There's whatever.
There's like a lizard. There's like a lizard man. Go back down a little bit. Yeah, there you go. You're showing up. Yeah, what is that?
Right there. This one here. Yeah. And there's this one here. It looks like a dog-headed lizard man dancing with a monkey or something like that.
Yeah.
Like seriously, what is going on with these? And the way to erase history is just to find everything that doesn't that you don't agree with and destroy it. Book burnings. That's what they're doing.
Yes, of course.
Could this be it? Yeah, it's really fascinating. This stuff is really, really interesting. And, that's what I always say is, never get carried away with believing everything you're told, including this. Make sure you look at everything objectively and take your time. Don't jump into things right away. And even if it follows your confirmation bias, take a time to look at something and don't jump into things right away.
Yeah, nothing beats actually going to some of these places too, because you don't really fully understand. Like I've been to Baalbek, I've been to the pyramids. You've been to Petra, as I mentioned. You don't fully get the understanding of how massive this undertaking had to have been. For Baalbek, for example, I can't even remember the amount of weight that some of these stones were in Baalbek. But it was something in the range of like 1 million pounds, or somewhere between 500,000 pounds and 1 million pounds each block.
Mm-hmm.
And so how would they, first of all, had the ability to chisel it to a perfect rectangle and then also lift it? Some of these ancient, like Baalbek was built on top of whatever the ruins of this, because you can see, and that's the same with the pyramids, there was something built on top of these structures. You could see a lot of this stuff in Peru, as Graham Hancock pointed out. It's almost comical that modern civilizations try to build on top of these these
perfect, like fantastic constructed. Yeah. And we should know as a society, as a culture, that construction is supposed to get better. Construction is supposed to improve. But we see a degradation, like things are getting worse and worse. Yeah. And that means we've lost something.
And Rye and I were talking about these laser light shows. Like in Egypt, I heard somebody say whenever we were sitting, at night, they have a laser light show at the pyramids. Like you can go sit down in some chairs and just watch this laser light show. And it's like showing all these, hieroglyphics and all these other different things. And it's like in 2015, like the Ra built these pyramids and stuff like that. It's comical because it's like, this is what modern people do. The ancient people built
and I told you I went, and I literally have my pictures ready. So this is what he's talking about. So this is at Chichen Itza. This is the pictures that I took of Chichen Itza. So yeah, so like these had these marbles that they built on, and we're just shooting lights on them to
And look,
yes,
this is what it used to look like.
Well, this is what it looks like. This is what it used to look like. This is the pyramid underneath Chichen Itza. Yes.
But this is exactly it. This is exactly what they were doing in Egypt too. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing because people were noting that when we were sitting there, we're like, can you believe this is modern Egypt, right? Projecting lights onto a pyramid. Like ancient Egypt were building 80 ton, which is 160,000 pound stones stacked on top of 2 million of them stacked on top of each other in perfect alignment, astrological alignment, perfect, symmetry. It's the way that these things were built is unbelievable. There's no cracks or crevices in these things. It's like they were molded together somehow. And so, again, we're getting stupider, or like maybe not getting stupider, but maybe it wasn't that long ago when we forgot this technology, you know? Like,
Yep.
that's the thing is, like, what if it was just a few hundred years ago? What if there was a cataclysm a few hundred years ago that they're not telling us about? And we're just sort of remembering, you know, we're kind of waking up to all this stuff that's going on in the world right now. And we're like, hey, wait a minute, this shit don't look right. You know, these, like, something ain't adding up here, you know, and we're kind of just remembering. And like, maybe they're keeping this from us because every few hundred years there's cataclysms or something. I don't know. Maybe they think they're protecting us in some way. But it's pretty evident that we're not the same as what we used to be, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I totally agree with you. We're not the same as we used to be. You know, it's pretty crazy, the stuff that we were able to build, and now we're trying to emulate it, but we can't. We're not able to do that anymore.
Yes, Gene. That's exactly right. They got to get their electrolytes. Yeah, Baalbek is very interesting for sure. But yeah, you know, it does feel like we are getting stupider, and they continue to push stuff in the media. Like, I get it. I get into it too, right? I'm not immune to, like, the idiocy, the idiocracy, as Gene is alluding to, the movie Idiocracy. Like,
yep.
I like watching dumb stuff too. Like, for some reason, whenever it's on my newsfeed, I'm watching two Neanderthal women slap each other in a power slap competition or something like that. And what have we become? You know,
what, the slapping contest, man? I'm like I thought, when I originally first saw it, I thought it was a joke. I literally thought this was like a skit that people were putting on as a joke. But yeah.
This is modern entertainment. I mean, it's just ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, like, and like in Idiocracy, it'll just be someone's ass, you know, just ass on the show, and everybody's, or ow my balls. What is that one?
Yeah. Ouch my balls, yeah.
Ouch my balls. Yeah. Well, I'm starting to hit a wall. Brad, I don't know about you.
Sure. We can wrap it up. It's been a couple hours now. So
yeah. We just hit the 2-hour mark. So I'm good with that. If you know, is there anything you want to sign off with? Is there anything you want to, other than your website and your show, which are down below, but by all means, please plug that again.
Yeah, just the awakenpodcast.com. All the links for everything is there. And if you guys want to follow me, that would be great. If you want to, you don't have to. I mean, it's cool. But if you want to give me a review, that would help me out a lot. And Spotify makes you listen. Yeah, give Rye a review too. Spotify helps. They make you listen to like 3 episodes. You don't have to listen to. My brother called me. He's like, dude, I got to listen to all these episodes. You know, I was like, no, man, just like click on one and fast forward it, and then it'll count as watching one. So you don't, or listening to one, you know?
But no, people are going to want to listen to your episodes, Brad. You have fantastic episodes. So listen to Brad's episodes. They're great. You know, I really like Joel Thomas one. I'm currently listening to right now, and it's fantastic. So yeah,
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for always listening and supporting me. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So theawakenpodcast.com. I get a lot of traffic to the website there, so thank y'all.
Yeah, and same here for me as well, too, guys. If you're listening on audio, go to Spotify, leave me a review. I would appreciate it. If you want to support the podcast, as usual, you know, I have my Printify store, which I've shared the links in here, and all the links will be down below. I have a Patreon that I'm starting to release members only interviews on there. I've got one down already, and I'll be I'm going to try to do, you know, a couple a month, and eventually I want to get it out to 4 a month. You know, it's only like a coffee for a month, and you get some new content. And one last thing, of course, like on my Printify store, this is kind of what you can find there. I made this up the other day, so here's my little quick commercial.
Nice.
Very quick.
I like it.
I like it. I threw it together, and I thought it was catchy. When I had Paul Stobbs on, it was the first time I released it. And he's like, "Oh man, that's catchy. I like it." And yeah, that's awesome. So everyone, I hope you had a great evening. Make sure you guys catch us again the next time we do this. I'm pretty impromptu. It's kind of like I was supposed to actually have an interview tonight with Juan from One on One podcast. He had a engagement. It was his father's birthday, so he's like, "I'm so sorry." So I'm scheduling. That's tomorrow night. I'm going to be doing that interview with him. So it was kind of like a last minute thing, but that seems to be always the way I do it. It's like a 24-hour kind. No, I wouldn't say 24-hour. It's like a 12-hour before. So I thanks everyone for showing up. Great guests. I thought this was a banger.
Can I plug one more thing, if you don't mind?
Of course.
Couple friends of the show, Caesar Pagan with the Beyond the Frequency podcast, Beyond the Frequency 369. Tiffany Haney from Rooted Frequency, Nix from Stygian Charters, Brandon Wright from Tenfold Tales. All the guys at Merkle Media, they're always awesome. The Nephilim Death Squad for always helping us out as well, or helping me out as well. And just go support a lot of these guys, Mark Steves, those kind of guys, and support their podcasts if you don't mind. They all these are great shows, and they provide different looks at the same content. So it's really interesting.
And I couldn't agree more with you. It's not like go support them just because we're telling you to. Like, if you enjoy this content, you're going to enjoy that stuff. Bottom line is what it is. I think they're really good. And Caesar is just starting out, and I think he's fantastic. And also there's Broadcasting Seeds as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, fantastic. Bennett. Great podcast as well. I was on there, and I'm going to share that episode tomorrow in my group and Facebook. The episode that I did with Bennett from Broadcasting Seeds, fantastic.
Awesome.
Oh, and Diana, my only Patreon member so far, she checked it out, and she loved the last video posted on Patreon. So let's get more than one. Let's see how many we can build up. So that's my call to action. If you like this content, it's less than a coffee a month. That's all I got to say. And with that, I think we're done. All right, everyone. I want to say thank you again for joining us on this great adventure. And like I always say, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always, as I get ready to cue up the video, find your way home.
I look forward to our next adventure together as we navigate the mysteries that lie ahead. Until our paths cross again, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.